welcome to another Tuesday night shiur. As we were saying, you were not feeling well on Purim, huh? Halal. And you?
Oh,
You celebrated Purim?
of course.
Yeah? Where'd you go?
I went to in Long Island. I went to a shul there, Gila. We ate pizza, went to Gila. I ate Gila again. You know, shit.
But not Purim like Eretz Yisrael.
No. Things I never got drunk or anything, but I drink like.
Okay, no, the point is not get drunk. Okay, we just got back into Purim because you said you weren't feeling on this again. But next year you stop by me. Mutarim lachem. You're sick. You'll get sick for another sickness. You'll forget that you got sick with this sickness.
You'll get smacked so hard.
Then you're like feeling a different level. But now we are in. We're getting ready for Pesach.
Yes.
And whenever there's a leap year, we read the beginning of Vayikra. And why do we do that? Because we have to understand that what was actually Pesach.
What's that?
But from the beginning, let's see the beginning, the first Pesach. What was Pesach?
Escaping.
No, what was Pesach? What did they eat specifically? A sheep, Korban Pesach, right? That's why we also have Pesach Sheni if you're Tameh. I want to touch many different aspects and topics which I hope to get into. For example, all the Kritmachs, the Christians, right? They're talking about the red heifer and all the podcasts and everything. You know, when they're strolling, now there are 3 red cows that a rancher from Texas gave, and even the Muslims now are saying, do not get fooled by this red cow, and so on and so forth. And the truth is that they're saying they build a ram, they're ready for it, and it's shal shtiyot. We can't slaughter no red cow and no nothing. Why? Because in order to actually slaughter the red cow, you have to be tahor. And we are all tameh, right? We're all tameh. So if we're all tameh, then how are we going to slaughter this red cow? It's impossible. So even the Muslims coming are screaming, they're saying, don't be fooled for the Jizal, they call it. They call it the fake Mashiach. They also have a concept of a fake Mashiach is gonna come, and we have to fight him. Their whole, all their books are all shtuyot. Sitra Achar number 1. And just to see the awakening, and this is why also we are in the middle of when there's a leap year. Like this year, we read Sefer Vayikra. Talking about korbanot, we'll get into it a little bit. You know, in davening, before we start, where everyone starts Hodu, right? Right before Hodu, we read korbanot, the actual sacrifices of the Beit HaMikdash that would be done that day, and so on and so forth, and which sacrifices. And why do we read this? We have to understand that the things that come out of our mouth, we actually create in that moment. We create. So when we read the korbanot in the morning of the actual korbans, the sacrifices, we're actually, bepoal, we might not do it, meaning physically we're not doing it, but we are doing it physically. What does that mean, we're doing it physically? Since we're saying it, we're creating already a vessel of it actually happening. There was a story with the Baal Shem Tov. A person said, I wish so-and-so, something happens to him. And the Baal Shem said, in Shamayim, it already happened. Why? Because you said it, you created that framework.
What do you mean?
And even psychologists, lahavdil, of course, we don't need psychologists to prove anything, but just for the people to know, they always say, a person's train of thought and a person, the way he talks, that's the way he influences himself. If you're always gonna say to yourself, I'm never gonna make it, look where I grew up, what did I do, how did I did this sin, that sin, I'm done. Absolutely not. You know when you're done? When you mentally and physically and with it verbally, you put yourself in that cage. So
Even though you do sin, you still just
Of course, what's the question?
because you feel guilty.
Guilt is the sin. Guilt is the sin. You have to regret. And that's it, you have to move on. When you daven Shmona Esrei, Slach lana avinu ki chatanu, v'chonanu ki pashanu, ki kel tov v'slachata, baruch ata Hashem, chanun ha'maveh lisloach, at that moment you have to think in your head, all the avarot are gone. If not, you're saying bracha like you're kofir. Especially you do Ana right after in the morning. And mincha, we don't like to skip Ana. Ashkenazim love to skip things, do this, do that. We don't do that. There's a seder, there's an order for a reason. Let's go back to the korban. Korbanot lamaisa is because we have to. Unfortunately, if someone that doesn't learn sefer of avodah and coaching, they don't understand the value or korban. That's why a person shouldn't skip anything in the siddur. Oh, but it takes long. It only takes long for the first 2 months because you're not familiar with the words. Once you start saying word for word and you start meditating on it and understanding that this animal was for this and that, you come to a realization of how close I'm sacrificing my own animal inside of me to elevate myself spiritually, to connect to Melech Malachem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Comes a person doesn't know what he's saying, he's reading, he's not davening, then he'll be like this for 50 years, 100 years. Nothing will help. Why? Because you're not davening, you're reading. This week's parasha we see something very interesting. Aliyat Shishi talks about the kosher animals. The goyim, they very, very, very. This is another way how you know that the goy, especially the Muslims, they took our Torah and they didn't copy. They took whatever they thought would influence the Jew to convert. So, out of all the animals, which animal is not allowed to them? The pig. Out of all the mammals, the only mammal that's not allowed to them is the pig. Why? Because the Torah says it's not allowed. And for generations, Jews were always careful for which animal? The pig, no matter what. I know people that don't keep kasher, they'll eat anything. When it comes to the pig, they move back. Oh, we can't touch this animal. And why? Because this animal is the number one afiris.
It tricks you, shows you, look.
It's the number one faker. How many of us don't eat pig but are pig? That's what we have to ask ourselves.
I'm trying to say that Habi.
I just told you that the pig is what? Is a deceiving animal, right?
Oh, faker.
How many of us are the pig but are scared to even eat the pig? That's what someone has to ask himself. Has to ask himself, am I a pig? Do I look the part, but really am not the part? Look at the pig. Split hooves, he doesn't chew his cud. So his inner is not good, and his outer is good. That is the problem with us. That is a problem with every single one of us. We're so easy to judge an external a person by their external. We don't even wonder what's going on in the internal. Now, avad, if you see someone dressed up like a harlot, or like he's in a gang, and no one's talking about that. You see someone like regular guy, like you and how we're dressed, come already, and people come and they jump on him, they judge him. What's up? Stop. Maybe that person keeps more Torah mitzvot, both physically, emotionally, than you, because you wear a black hat and you have. I'm not saying you shouldn't. You should have all these things too, but for sure, if you have all that, you can't be judging. For sure. Who can judge?
Sure.
The person that doesn't know anything can judge, but the person that claims that he knows he's so from. I'm the from one. So why are you judging out of all people? Lehefech, you should be the one not judging. just shows us how this world is afuch al afuch. It's all mixed up. We're in the generation of the chazir. We're in the generation of the pig. That's how we are. Why? We only think about external. That's the problem.
We think about external.
We only judge a person by his outside. What you see him do. What you see him wear. How you see him act. There's so much to think about before you even get there.
So just don't judge.
You couldn't have said it better. I'm going to tell you something. This is not an excuse, but this is a fact. It's not an excuse, but it's a fact. When a person starts to study and dwell in the topics of nishamot, of souls, you start to realize how really not only isn't it impossible to judge, you're a fool for judging. Because everyone's put in a certain situation, in a certain sphere, a certain surrounding for a reason. Now, if the person has a hard time overcoming or not overcoming, or so on and so forth, note that he has that test because he's the only one that can be there, not you. It's easy to go and judge. But when the person starts to think for a second, if I would be in his shoes, how would I act? How would I start being? That's when a person has to think double, triple, quadruple. And that's why we shouldn't act like pigs. We should act like Bnei Adam, humans. Human is Tzelem Elokim. What does it say at the end of this week's parasha, which is Matok Midvash. Matok Midvash. It says in Perek Yud Aleph Pasuk Mem Daled, Ki, because I, Hashem, Elokechem, your God, V'hit kadishtem, v'hitem kiddushim. I sanctified myself for you, and because of that, you should be sanctified for me. Kiddushim doesn't mean holy, it means separated.
Why? You get married, you're getting separated?
You're separating yourself from everybody else. And you're only now
with that person.
To that person. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what Kiddushim really means. Through separating yourself for one, you become holy.
Why?
Because now you decided to take the attribute of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is just to give. Lahativ tov lehabiriyot. Hashem created this world for one reason, to give His greatness, to give His goodness to this world. Hashem was a shalem, He was complete in all His completion, except his midot, His characteristics were not complete. What does that mean? That means if something is complete, the only way to show His completeness is by doing. So He needed to create this world in order to do that doing. Because if everything is godliness, there's nothing to do. Everything is in a complete state. So He created this world He created uncompleteness. Not for Himself. He's still complete. But the creation that He created was in a sense to be incomplete in order for us to get to the level of completeness, for us to realize the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what people are missing. People are missing this fact. Why Hashem needed this. He needed this to show and to prove, because He really didn't need to prove, but to give His completeness to you. The reason why we don't grasp it is because we never felt completeness.
Or we never see God.
You don't need to see God. You need to feel completeness. You maybe a person felt completeness once or twice in his life.
What's the feeling of feeling completeness?
A feeling of completeness is a feeling of I belong. I belong. Accomplishment and belonging have to go together. That's a feeling of of completeness. That's to be separated from everyone and just be connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's that high feeling that tzaddikim have, but they have it on a constant base. Why do they seek back God 24/7? Because it's like a drug. You get that sensation of godliness, and it wears off, and then you gotta work hard to get it more. The problem is, in order to do that, you have to be a porish. You have to segregate yourself from certain physicalities, which people don't want to do. If it's watching popcorn, if it's hanging out with a crowd that you don't want, if it's eating not kosher. We're not doing all this because he commanded us and we're slaves. We're all doing all this because we want to be like him. A kid that falls off the derech, right? And now he's much older, and he keeps certain parts of Torah mitzvot, but he doesn't want to accept HaKadosh Baruch Hu 100%. He says, whatever I'm doing is 100%. What's the problem here? You know what the problem is? The problem is not the guy, really. This is the circumstances that he fell into. The problem is that he's living his dramatic state of mind of what put him to that place. Trauma. Bnei Israel came out of Egypt, we had a lot of trauma. Trauma, the only way to heal it is by letting go. People cannot grow until they learn to let go, to accept it. Not to take the blame for everything that happens in their life. It's the problem with people. They blame themselves for everyone's problems. And then they start to act narcissistic. And no one knows really why. It's because they're putting themselves in that pit and gutter because they think I can take that and put it upon everyone else. And that's the pig. That's exactly what the pig does. He always hangs around the kosher animals, the pig. It's a farm animal, no? Majority of farm animals are kosher. Not majority, but the ones that are that are more tame. No?
Yeah.
Same too. So we have to ask ourselves, are we pigs? Are we a chazer? We might not eat it, but we might be it. That's the problem. And how does the Torah continue? V'hikdashtem, and you shall be separated from me. V'hitim kedoshim, and you should be only for me, or you should be holy. Ki kadosh ani, because I am holy. V'lo titam'u et nafshotechem. Do not make your bodies unpure. B'chol asher taromes al aretz, for any of the creatures that are on this world. You are what you eat. You give a kid too much candy, what happens to him? He's off the wazoo. You give the kids too many preservatives, what happens to the body? Cannot digest it, they become obese. These are all in physical. In physical, we believe it. ADHD, all this nonsense that people say. But wait, when it comes to spirituality, suddenly we don't believe it. When we tell you, when you eat things that are trefot and nevilot, oh, it's all business. Elamai. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing that it's business.
What's all business?
Hashgachot and I'm not disagreeing. But their wrong doesn't make you have an excuse for doing wrong too. Two wrongs don't make a right.
So it is all business, really?
I'm not saying it is mamish. I'm saying, of course, there is business involved. There is people making money, no? What? And you know what? They should make money. Who else is going to do the job for you right now? Going to slaughter a cow for you? For yourself? You're not going to do it. Who are you lying to?
I'm saying no.
I'm just saying, Stam is like that. When people come and they say it's all a business, you're right, it's all a business. The same way how you make money, you also have to make money. Don't cheat the people. Yes, they have to. They will answer din v'cheshbon min hashamayim. They will answer to God for this. But in the same time, they doing something wrong doesn't make it allow. It doesn't allow it for you to do something wrong. You know who does that? Children. But mommy, he did it. Why can't I do it? Kids say that. You're not going to go on top of the Empire State Building and someone throws himself off and say, okay, everyone, he did it, I'm also going to do it. You're not going to do that. You're not a shoteh, I hope not. At least you're not that dumb to see someone do something wrong and you also do it. That's what people are not understanding. That's the sad part. So we put ourselves, we build ourselves this circle of allowingness and acceptingness of our own reality, not knowing in order to get to certain levels of devotion and connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you need to have that sense of separating yourself.
Everybody else.
Not just from everyone else, for anything that's wrong. Not give yourself the excuse, if he does it, I can also do it. You're not a child. That guy cheats on his wife, you can also cheat on his wife. He does it, why can't I do it? There are swingers over there. Let them do it, I can also do it. That's too far. Wait. Who said that's far?
Myself.
Right? Yeah. So if you determine what's too far, what's not, then the other person can also determine what's far or not. So who are you to judge? Comes the Torah and says, there's guidelines. I tell you what's too far. If you go by these parameters, you're okay. If you go beyond these parameters, you're not okay. That's why there's one base law. When a person says, I don't need to keep... God really doesn't care if I eat from Domino's. He doesn't care. I don't buy the Sicilian, what's it called? The meat. Pepperoni. I only eat the regular. God doesn't care. But he does. Not because you're doing something wrong for him.
For ourselves.
But you're doing it wrong for yourself.
Why is it wrong for us?
It happens because whatever you do plays a trickle effect to everything on top of you. You see, you have a responsibility. Your responsibility is so vital that one wrong move can affect next generations to come. This is why learning Sodot HaTorah is extremely important. Because if you don't learn a little bit of the in-depth Torah, just a little bit, you won't understand how vital and important and significant even the way you breathe, even at what time you go to bed, how it all affects everything around you. You're not just another person. You are God created this world for you. And if he didn't, you wouldn't exist. That's why the second you leave this world, it's the second the world doesn't need you anymore. As long as you're breathing on planet Earth, the world still needs you. And that's why when a person, lo aleinu, takes his own life, it's one of the worst things in the world.
But does that mean that the world didn't need him?
It means different. Yes and no. Yes and no. And I don't want to get into it, but I'll tell you a little bit. The soul that does such a thing, and if it's a person that had knew what they were doing, and not a person that had issues and was going through traumatic state of mind, right? That soul, he's still on planet Earth. There is no din v'cheshbon for him yet.
He's basically here.
He's stuck. That's the problem.
It's the worst.
It's one of the worst pains in the world. That's when a person does the Ouija board. Usually people that do that, they get a lot of problems in their life. Why? Because when you take that cup and the cup starts to move, what's moving it?
Soul.
Why did the soul go into that cup? Because it found a Beit Kibul. It found a place that it can rest in its 4 dimensions. You invited it to come. Whenever you stop doing the Ouija board, the soul is forced to leave the cup. So now it doesn't have a resting place. So it hurts you and affects you and makes you lose money and makes you get hurt and break stuff in the house. Why? For you to get the attention.
So this is real.
It's not a joke. It's not a joke. I never said it was a joke.
I saw a stupid movie like this. I thought it was fake.
It's not fake. If you do it properly, it's not fake. The Rambam talks about it.
It's scary.
Why would it affect the person?
Why does it affect?
Scope working?
I'm telling you, because you gave it a place to rest. Gave it a little bit of a menucha. Because it's stuck. What souls do you think are stuck on this earth? Not the best ones. The ones that don't have the kochot, the power to raise itself up from so much klipa did.
So what can we do to
So
help?
understand how significant you are on this earth. This is the problem with people. People, since they don't accept it's not ego. It's not ego. It's your responsibility. Your responsibility to do certain things is to connect yourself to Kadosh Baruch Hu, the highest level. Oh, you have to sacrifice so many physical things. Yeah, it's gonna bother you for the first couple of weeks. After that, you're gonna realize how you never needed any of it. You never really needed it. Like a person that smokes weed, right? Smokes bud. And he's addicted. But then he takes the leap of faith and he stops. But he stops and he doesn't think about it all the time. He stops and doesn't even think about it. You know what happens to that person mentally? He fixes himself from realizing that he never really needed it. It was just an escape. It was an escape for something. How come people go back to their bad habits? It's because they always think about it. It's always in their head. That's why youngsters can't stop doing that sin. That for men.
But that's in our
Why?
desire, though.
Yeah.
In our nature, I mean,
There's in our nature, oops, I saw it, I sinned, bye-bye. And there is, I'm only thinking about that. You saw that waitress? You saw that girl walking? You saw your dog? Every little thing you start to point out, look at her this, look at her. Relax. What are you, a chaya? You a dog? You know what? It's also women nowadays too. It's crazy. I never thought the day I would say this. You saw how this guy looked at me, you saw his hair, you saw his eyes, you saw his this, look how tall he is. It's tava. The less you think about it, not because you don't want it,
it's normal.
because it's an addiction. And you want to not have that addiction, you want to be human, automatically you realize how easy it is to overcome.
Things with wives saying,
Forget about once you're married. I'm talking about right now that you're single. The difficulty is because it's on your mind 24/7. Take it out of your mind, automatically what happens is the effect gets less and less. That's what happens. It's just this is what it is. Again, we put ourselves in all of these positions in our life. That's the funny thing. We're like, I'm telling you, we are like the pig. We act a certain way and we want something else. You put yourself in that state of mind. You put yourself in that position in your life. Everyone is accounted for where he is in his life. Everybody.
but you say it's all Tosha.
It
Up
is.
to me.
It is.
What would I
It
do?
is. But state of mind. Rubashkin was in jail for how many years? 11, 12 years? 8 years? You know what he said? I allowed my body to be in jail, not my brain to be in jail. That's what he said. That means what? Even though he physically was in jail, mentally he was still a free man.
How?
Whatever, however he did, we'll talk about that at
That's
different time.
crazy, brother.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Hashem puts you in the position, yeah, but you put yourself in the position too. Your bechira of your brain decides how you feel at that moment. You're still gonna live it. Here, how you gonna accept it? How you gonna take it? Is it gonna be with guilt and pain and hate, or is it gonna be with thank you and clarification and enlightenment and appreciation? That's what it comes down to.
It's a pig.
That's called mental mind. That's called not being a pig. That's called not being a chazan. Ki ani Hashem hama'aleh etchem. I am God, the one that raised you up from Eretz Mitzrayim, from the land of Egypt. Liyot lachem le'elokim, to be for you a God. V'yitem kedoshim ki kadoshani. And you shall be sanctified and separated, for I am separated for you. God is saying that I'm only for you, and you're only for me. You know, the Midrash of Purim, we know. Check out their seltzer or something, please. I'm sorry, it's about it. The Midrash on Purim, the famous Midrash of taking Torah again, Torah Shebechtav, Torah Sheba'al Peh, Har Sinai was like a force, I'm going to clarify this. That's what I heard from one of my Rebbeim. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu put the mountain on top of the Jews before accepting the Torah?
Say it again, Rabbi.
How come the Midrash says Hashem put a mountain on top of us before accepting the Torah? Hashem said, if you're not going to accept it, here will be your burial. A lot of goyim use this excuse, and I heard a great chiddush on it. Why did God do that? Oh, you see, God didn't want you, He left you, He came back, all this nonsense. This is the proof why exactly God can never leave us, actually, what I'm about to tell you. God can never leave us, and now I'm going to prove it to you. Gemara Masechet Kiddushin says, if I'm not mistaken, a man that forces himself on a woman. You know what that means, right? A man that rapes a woman.
Oh.
He forces himself on a woman. He doesn't have the right, he has to marry her, first of all. He doesn't have the right to divorce her unless she wants to be divorced. Now that sounds weird to you, right? Which person would want to live with a person that raped her? Of course, we're talking about different times, that the value of women were much less, and they relied solely on their husband and so on and so forth, right? We're not talking about this and that. We're talking about the concept right now. Why did God need to force the Jews to take the Torah? God did that purposely to show the Jews that I'm bounded to you forever. Even if the whole world will say that I left you, know that it's impossible. Why? Because you and I are like a forced contract marriage. I can never leave you. Only you could leave me. You meaning all of Klal Yisrael. And it'll never be that all Klal Yisrael will say, no, we don't want HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's how when a goy comes and tells you this, you have to understand how ridiculous they are and foolish for thinking that HaKadosh Baruch Hu left the Yid. HaKadosh Baruch Hu could never leave the Jews. It's impossible. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam shel kol yodam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can never leave the Yidden, ever. And why is this relevant? Because He separated Himself for us. So what are we doing that we can say we're separating ourselves from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? You know, my father's an interesting man. He's the most toughest man I know, but yet the most softest man I know. It's an oxymoron. It's very funny. He seems like a very tough personality, but once you get to know him, he's like
Soft.
He's such a softie. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Why am I bringing my father as an example? Oh, my father, I think it's already 12 years that he doesn't work. He learns Torah all day. Or deals with Tzorchei Tzibur.
Has to pay for things.
He doesn't know. Before I got married, he always used to tell me, how are you going to pay for things? Now that he doesn't work, sometimes as a tease, I say, no, how are you paying for things? He's like, Hashem, we're so ridiculous. Our emunas are so... But you know what? You know when your emunah only gets strong? When you're forced to be in that position. It's so great because no one can fathom it until you're there. That's why I don't judge when people say, oh, how am I going to make a living? Even though I want to scream at them and say, don't worry. At the same time, I say to him, no, I understand. He has that struggle, but he doesn't, maybe not that he doesn't believe, but he was never put in that position that he's stuck. Why am I telling my father? I said 12 years ago. No, less than 12 years ago. Around 8 years ago. He got fired right before the big jewelry rush season, which is their holiday, their Goyish New Year. He got fired because he used to come to work an hour late, 2 hours late, but he used to stay up and work until 2, 3 in the morning.
What's that job?
He's a diamond setter by trade.
Before?
So he would take the jewelry home and he would work at home. He would go to sleep and then he would start his day. But he had an issue. What was his issue? He davens very long.
So you come late to work?
So he would come late to work, not because he
slept
in, but because he was davening for an hour and a half, 2 hours shacharit. And he knew he had this bit of an issue, but his boss really liked him. And at that time there was a machloket going on in his job. Some of the goyim wanted to get rid of him. And look how Hashem played it. He said to himself, I'd rather lose my job than miss my morning prayer. That way I have to daven. And he lost his job. He got fired. Why? Because he said, my shacharit is shacharit, my mincha is a mincha, my arvit is an arvit.
It's not good he got fired.
My learning Torah. He was at that point in his life. It's not that he wasn't good in his job. He's until today, he's excellent in his job. He by trait he does that, but he adapted a new trait. I have to connect myself to Kodesh Baruch. The guy wants me to work. Now he doesn't want me to work anymore. How do we know? Hashem got him fired. Unbelievable. Amazing. A man with a mortgage. A man with bills. He said, I can't have to rely on Kodesh Baruch Hu. Until today. Unbelievable. Why? Because he was willing to be poresh. He was willing to separate himself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
You didn't say it would happen to any of us? If that case?
Did you hear what I said the last time?
I know.
He was not he got fired, then he separated from it.
He separated then
He separated himself. For years he separated himself. He was only the book to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And as time went by, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made sure that he will be more and more and more to him. Amazing. People say, oh, if God's going to give me, then I'm going to be. No, first be, then God will give you. And I say this story to myself all the time. I used to work with my father in that same company for a very short time, then I quit. He was so upset at me that I quit because I was so good in that job that I was doing. I was making great money. I just didn't feel it was for me.
What job?
I worked in the jewelry district too. I did polish, I did little jewelry, whatever. Whatever the cases that I did there, just in that small company.
Where?
Whatever it was. I wasn't 47 even before that, but I got stuck in that trade because I needed money for something, and the kids are close to work, I put me there. My father wanted me to go there, so I went there. I was already married. I quit one day.
Wow.
My wife told me, you don't look happy. I said, I'm miserable here. Money's great, but I'm miserable. I don't feel that I'm doing what I need to do in this world. I'm a robot. She said, quit. I said, don't worry, Hashem will help, quit. I said, no doubt. Came into my boss one day. I'm quitting. Okay? He didn't care. Always the Jew, you have to pay the Jew more than the Goy. You got a Goy, he pays in pennies. Okay, I left. 3 months later, you fired my dad.
Fire your dad after you?
Fired my dad 3 months later. 2 months later. See how Hashem works? It's unbelievable. What could we have done? Oh, we're gonna do their lives, we're gonna do Good shabrichu. Only God. Let's go weiter life.
I mean, what's funny, the same thing happened with me. That's why I went to Israel. I was working at 47, and then I was thinking to myself one day, I think you even called me, I think it was you. You were on chat when you guys spoke to me, and I was thinking that day, I was like, do I really want to do this with my life? Or I want to take the chance and see what yeshiva is that? I came to the conclusion that day, packed my bags, a week later I was out. Same thing happened, it's crazy.
I'm gonna finish with this. What's dam? What's blood? What's blood? Torah says, Ki adam hu nefesh. The blood is your nefesh, is part of your soul.
Why is it like that? Why is it linked?
I'm gonna tell you.
Oh, sorry.
Blood, what is blood made out of?
Liquid.
What is it made out of?
Your heart, blood.
Well, you take biology, no? Blood, what is it made from? How does it get there? Food.
Yeah.
Blood is made from ochel, from food, from what we eat and what we drink. That's where blood comes from. Of course, there's the cells, and then there's the whole process of the whole thing, how it circulates and so on and so forth. You are what you eat is not wrong. Because what happens when you eat something, you make that into part of your neshama. Which part of your neshama? Your animal part of your neshama. Your animal part of your neshama is your blood, which circulates from your heart to your liver to your brain. And it's not for no reason. And when we are careful of what we eat and careful of the bracha rishona and bracha achorna, automatically we elevate everything around us. How come people, after they go to a 3-day seminary, they want to all become Chozer B'Teshuvah? How long does it take to circulate new blood?
Time.
2 days.
Oh, today?
Around 2 days. What happens? The guy was in seminary for 3 days, eating only kosher food. His neshama feels a certain hitorut. That's the difference. We don't realize this because we live like the pig. We only care about the person's outside, not the person, how much he's working on his Avodat HaKodesh, how much he's making a benefit for the world. Because we live in a fake society, fake Yiddishkeit. I call it fake Yiddishkeit. I don't call it real Yiddishkeit. Real Torah mitzvot is to be very not judgmental. I'm not saying, oh, he's not Sfaradi, he's Ashkenazi, he's this kind of chassid, he's that kind of chassidus, he's this Litvish, he's not Litvish, he's Misnagdish, he's Moroccan, he's Bukharian, he's Persian, he's Afghani, he's Chala. No, we're all even. It doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. I don't care. We're all Yidden. I'm not going to be a pig. I'm not going to wear this costume. I'm not going to bring that mentality in my head. Look at me, everyone. I'm good. Really, you're not good. That's the problem. And that's Pesach. Pesach, we couldn't be fake. The ones that were fake died in Egypt. You couldn't be fake. How come people don't get a revelation on Pesach anymore? How come we don't feel like we're leaving Mitzrayim? Because we're lying to ourselves. We're fake. You wanna feel that feeling in Pesach? Don't be fake. Be real. Make a change. We have 2 weeks left to Pesach. 2.5 weeks. Do something for now until Pesach that you're doing for Pesach. Doing to say, I'm getting out of this nonsense, I'm going to revelation of seeking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Learn more halacha, learn more Shulchan Aruch, talk more to Hashem, pray more, word for word, midagdek b'tfilah, Be careful with your tefillah. Talk positive to people. Call people that you don't talk to in a long time. That's what you have to do. Connect to your Rebbeim. Work and give maaseh. Do things that take you out in order to say, I'm doing this. I want to connect myself to Kodesh Baruch because Kodesh Baruch connects himself to me. Again, we don't look at our significance. We look down on ourselves. I'm not telling you to look up on yourself as an ego. I'm telling you to look up on yourself and look at your value. You have a value. You have to take it. You have to look at it at face value. You have to grow. And don't say, oh, I hear this all the time. You hear it, but you don't do action. That's the problem with people. We don't take action. If we would take action, it would be different. We don't take action. That's why we're stuck. We're stuck because we say we'll leave it for tomorrow. We'll do it after this. Do it now. Do it now. Everyone knows what they have to grow in. Everyone knows. Don't mock other people. Don't do it. He's not there yet. He's gonna get there yet. He's gonna be there one day.
Just don't say anything.
So why would you mock a human being? What benefit do you have from it? What does it make a difference to you?
What if you just react? You have a
So you react? That's an animal thing. Animals react. Humans don't react. Animals react. A cat sees a mouse, he jumps on it. A dog sees a person coming, he barks at him. Humans don't react. We're collective creatures. We're not monkeys. We don't see a banana and start going, I want a banana. We don't do that.
Yeah.
We only react when we're too much like animals. That's the problem.
We eat animals, don't we?
When we're depraved. We don't eat animals.
We eat chicken, we eat cows. That's animals.
When you make a beracha, it's not an animal anymore.
Oh, making the animal holy, you say?
No, you don't make the animal holy. No, the animal is still an animal. Don't get me wrong, you eat an animal. I'm not psychotic. I'm not mental. I know you're eating an animal. But you're not actually eating the animal. When you make a beracha on something, you just turn that physical thing into a godly thing. Doesn't mean now every sip you have to say a bracha. No, you see, I can imagine people thinking that. Be human, be normal. Don't be crazy. Serve Hashem to your best availability, capability, and you'll get there. Don't judge. And if people judge you, remember one thing. Give me a sitter, I'll read it for you every word. Give me a sitter.
Which one?
My favorite part of Shemona Esrei. Yeah, anyone. I'm going to read it for you. Every Shemona Esrei has this prayer. Someone ever judges you, remember this. Elokai nitzor leshoni mira. God, save my tongue from saying anything wrong. Usfatai midaber mirema. And my lips from uttering also bad things. V'lim kalelai nafshi tedom. And for the ones that curse me, may my soul become inanimate. Let my soul be not quiet. Dom means like a rock. Let me not care if someone curses me. V'nafshi ke'afar lekol tiyeh. And my soul shall be like dirt to everything. You ever hear someone say something bad about you? It shouldn't bother you. You should feel a rachmanis. You should feel bad for him. Not bad because he's bad, but bad. Look how little humanity is. They're uttering their own problems by looking at yourself. As the Baal Shem Tov says, a person only sees a flaw in another only when he himself has that flaw. Because if you wouldn't have that flaw, you wouldn't realize the flaw in another. Rabbi Isai, these were the words of the Baal Shem Tov. When a person comes and talks negative to you, it's not because you're negative. It's because he's negative. He only sees it in you because he knows he has it. Do you understand? So when a person says and starts judging you and cursing, you have to look at it like, I'm so much greater than that. I feel bad for him. Right away, I forgive you. Because even though you're embarrassing me, I know you have problems. I know the problem is really with you and not with me. And even if it is with me, but okay, it's hard. I know. It's hard the first time. It's hard the second time. It's hard 10 times. It hurts 50 times. 51 times, you're already immune to it. The guy that goes to collect tzedakah every morning, right? The first time you do it, you feel, oh my God, what am I doing?
Feel embarrassed.
A month later, not only do you ask tzedakah, you go up to people's face and say, tzedukah, tzedukah, and the guy saying, get out of here, tzedukah, and he's still shaking, and you're like, can you move? You're doing like this. He's like, So until you don't put it in, no? Why doesn't he feel embarrassed? At this point, he's, give me the gel, tzedukah, tzedukah. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Person has to realize there's nothing in this world besides Hashem, and that is Pesach. Pesach was to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu's glory all over the world. That was Pesach. That's what amazing about Pesach. You look at the Seder, you have to be in awe. It's all HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's all godliness. You're gonna hold 4 cups, eat the matzah. It's the greatest thing in the world. If God forbid there's a machlok in the house, you have to right away change the subject somehow. You gotta change the atmosphere, the mood, the attitude of the kids. You have to. Why? Yitzhak wants to attack. No, nothing to attack right now. What do I say? Any questions? No? Don't now. After we close, 30-minute questions you're going to give me. Ask it now. People enjoy the questions. People learn so much from it.
It's not a good question.
It doesn't need to be good. It doesn't need to be good.
Okay, someone asked me, what's a tikkun for sleeping with a non-Jew?
Ooh. Never do it again. Do tshuva. Never do it again. Never think about it. How old is this guy? Don't answer. Is he married? Get married. And then we do tikkunim.
And then in tikkunim after you get married?
Correct. Yeah. This is what I hold. People say, do it before you get married. It's going to help you to get married. Maybe. But
Only fully do it.
I think you can fully do it and make sure you don't do it again once you're married.
Okay. So,
Of course, the tikkun comes with fasting and having a mikvah, finishing tehillim, tying your feet with certain metals, so on and so forth. It's not such a big deal. I did tikkun even though I never slept with the goya. At least this Gilgul for sure. I know I never slept with the goya.
sure.
Hashem should help us. You never. You should not even put me in these tests. Yeah, I have to pray for these things. You never know. Yitzhak comes, doesn't make a big difference who you are. Chas v'chalila. I pray to Hashem, may I never have the test and may I never have the reward for the test. I don't want, you know, Gan Eden, I don't want the Gan Eden and I don't want the test. Don't give it to me. I don't want it. Alas. I'm not living for the Gan Eden. I'm living to serve Hashem. Need this. Someone did it, I have to do tshuva. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen.